Have you ever felt like the world was spinning too fast? Like every sound, every demand, every thought was crashing down all at once, and no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't slow it down. That feeling, that invisible pressure building in your chest, it's not weakness. It's your mind asking for peace. Deep within you, there's a stillness that never leaves, even when everything around you begins to shake. In this audiobook, we'll learn how to stay calm when life tests you, how to find balance in chaos and peace within yourself. Chapter 1. Understanding the storm within. Pressure doesn't always arrive with warning. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, through expectations, fears, and the invisible weight of responsibility. You might not even notice how much you're carrying until your body tenses, your breath shortens, and your thoughts begin to race. But calmness begins with awareness. Before you can control your emotions, you must first recognize them. Take a moment, inhale deeply, and notice what you feel right now. Maybe it's restlessness, maybe it's worry, or maybe it's the quiet frustration of not being enough. Whatever it is, don't fight it. Just observe it, like watching clouds drift across the sky. Because awareness isn't about fixing, it's about seeing clearly. The moment you see your emotion without resistance, you begin to free yourself from it. Pressure amplifies whatever is already inside us. If you're anxious, it will make you more anxious. If you're grounded, it will strengthen your calm. That's why the first step to staying calm under pressure isn't to change the world around you. It's to notice the world within you. Calmness isn't built by control, it's built by understanding. When you stop trying to escape the noise and start listening to it, you realize something profound. Most of your stress isn't coming from what's happening outside. It's coming from how you interpret it. The traffic jam, the argument, the mistake, they're all neutral. What makes them painful is the story you attach to them. Imagine standing in the rain. One person curses the storm, another dances in it. The storm is the same, but the experience is different. That's the secret. Calmness doesn't depend on perfect conditions, it depends on your inner perception. The more you see that truth, the less power the outside world holds over you. So, before we learn techniques to stay calm, you must make peace with this truth. Pressure is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Every moment of stress is a mirror showing you where you've lost balance. When you understand this, calmness stops being something you chase. It becomes something you return to. Sometimes the pressure doesn't come from the world at all. It comes from the expectations you place upon yourself. The quiet belief that you must always be strong, always be composed, always have everything under control. But that's the heaviest burden of all, pretending to be calm while you're breaking inside. True calm begins when you allow yourself to be honest. You don't have to be unshakable to find peace. You only need to be aware. Awareness isn't about perfection, it's about presence. When you finally stop running from your feelings and start noticing them, even the painful ones, they begin to lose their power. The tension softens, the noise fades. The storm inside starts to quiet, not because you forced it to, but because you finally listened to it. Pressure often feels like a demand to fix everything immediately. But peace doesn't live in fixing. It lives in pausing. When you stop for just a moment and breathe, you create space between the problem and your reaction. In that small space, calmness grows. It's not a grand transformation. It's a whisper that says, "You're okay. You've always been okay." Think of the last time you felt completely overwhelmed. Maybe everything seemed to collapse at once. Deadlines, arguments, disappointment. In that moment, your mind wanted to escape, but if you could have paused, just paused, and taken one slow breath, your world would have begun to expand again. You would have realized that pressure doesn't define you, it only tests your awareness. When you understand the storm within, you no longer fear it. You start to recognize its rhythm. You see how every wave of emotion rises, peaks, and then falls away. You begin to notice that even your strongest feelings are temporary visitors. They come, they teach, they pass. This understanding changes everything. You stop drowning in your emotions and start floating above them. The more you practice this, the more naturally calmness becomes. You learn that peace isn't a place you reach. It's a space you create, moment by moment, breath by breath. You stop asking, "How can I escape this pressure?" and start asking, "What is this pressure trying to show me?" And suddenly, the storm that once scared you becomes your greatest teacher. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're human. And being human means learning to walk through storms with gentleness. Calmness isn't a mask you wear. It's a truth you return to. Even when the world shakes, that truth remains still inside you. Chapter 2. Calm in the middle of chaos. There comes a time when the world feels louder than your thoughts. Everything moves fast. Everyone demands more. And in that rush, your inner peace begins to fade. You start reacting instead of responding, running instead of breathing. That's when calm becomes not a luxury but a necessity, the quiet space that saves your mind from collapsing under pressure. Chaos is not always visible. Sometimes it's inside you, 1,000 thoughts racing at once, a quiet panic behind a steady face. People see your calm expression and think you're fine, but inside, your mind is searching for air. This is the silent chaos most of us live with. But even within that storm, there's a way to find peace, not by escaping it, but by changing how you meet it. You cannot always control what's happening, but you can choose the energy you bring into it. Calmness is not about avoiding pressure, it's about standing in pressure and staying steady. Like a tree that bends with the wind but never breaks, calmness is the art of flexibility. It's strength with softness, power without resistance. When chaos comes, the instinct is to fight back, to argue, to rush, to fix. But the more you resist, the deeper you sink. Calmness teaches you the opposite. When the storm rises, be still. Let the noise move past you. Don't add to it with more noise from within, because chaos only grows when it finds a reaction to feed on. Try observing chaos instead of engaging with it. Watch it like a wave rising and falling. You'll see that no wave lasts forever. Every emotion, every surge of pressure has a beginning and an end. When you realize this, you stop being afraid of what you feel. You understand that your emotions are temporary guests, not permanent truths. You'll notice that calm people are not calm because their lives are easy. They are calm because they've learned to pause. That pause, that small conscious space between emotion and action, is where peace begins. You can build that space inside yourself through awareness, through breath, through patience. When the world demands a reaction, give it stillness. When everything feels urgent, move slower. Calmness isn't laziness, it's clarity. It allows you to see what truly matters and what doesn't. The more you practice this, the more chaos becomes powerless around you. You stop being pulled into every storm because you've built a quiet world within yourself that nothing can reach. And that's the true meaning of calm under pressure, not silence, not denial, but deep understanding. You can face chaos and remain whole simply because you've learned to find peace in the noise. Calmness doesn't grow in peaceful conditions. It's built in the moments that test you the most. When everything seems to fall apart, and you still choose not to lose yourself, that's when real calm begins. Pressure reveals what's already inside you. It doesn't create weakness. It exposes strength you forgot you had. Every storm has two versions, the one happening around you and the one happening inside you. You cannot always stop the outer one, but you can quiet the inner. When you learn to separate the two, peace becomes possible. The chaos outside can be loud, but if the space within you stays still, no noise can truly reach you. The secret is to respond, not react. Reactions come from fear. Responses come from awareness. When you pause before you speak, before you decide, before you let emotion take over, that pause becomes your power. Calm people aren't emotionless. They're aware. They know that emotions are waves, strong but temporary. They allow the wave to rise, then let it fade without drowning in it. There will always be situations that test your limits, people who trigger you, failures that shake you, losses that sting. You can't remove those things from life, but you can learn to meet them differently. The goal isn't to avoid stress, it's to change your relationship with it. When you see pressure as a signal instead of a threat, it stops controlling you. In those moments when your thoughts begin to spiral, bring yourself back to your senses. Feel your breath. Notice the ground beneath your feet. Listen to a single sound in the room. The present moment is your anchor. Chaos lives only in the future or the past. The more you return to now, the safer you feel. And the safer you feel, the calmer your body becomes. Think of calmness as a muscle. You don't build it by reading about peace. You build it by practicing peace when it's hardest. Every time you stay still in the middle of tension, you strengthen that muscle. Every deep breath is a repetition. Every moment of patience is progress. Over time, calmness becomes your default, not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. You'll notice that when you stay calm, your world responds differently. People feel safer around you. Problems seem smaller. Solutions appear faster. This is the ripple effect of peace. What you cultivate within, you project without. Calm energy is contagious, just like chaos is. And when you choose calm, you silently teach others how to do the same. In the end, chaos isn't your enemy. It's your training ground. It's where your peace is tested, refined, and deepened. And each time you pass through it without losing yourself, you rise a little higher, quieter, wiser, and more unshakable than before. Chapter 3. The Weight of Expectations. There's a kind of pressure that doesn't come from noise or conflict. It comes from silence, the quiet pressure of expectations, the feeling that you must constantly prove yourself, meet every standard, and carry every responsibility without ever showing strain. It's invisible, yet it's one of the heaviest forms of pressure a person can bear. Expectations can begin as motivation, the desire to do well, to make others proud, to fulfill your purpose. But slowly, without realizing it, they start shaping your worth. You begin to believe that peace must be earned, that rest must be justified, that failure means you've fallen behind. This belief creates a constant inner tension, a fear that you are never doing enough, never being enough. The truth is, you can't find calm while carrying the weight of everyone's opinions. The more you try to live up to every expectation, the further you drift from yourself. Calmness requires honesty, a gentle return to what truly matters, to what's real for you, not for others. Because peace can't exist where you're pretending. Ask yourself quietly, whose approval am I still chasing? Sometimes the answer surprises you. It may be a parent's voice, a memory of comparison, or your own impossible standard. You've carried it for so long that it feels like part of your identity. But it's not. It's a story, one that can be rewritten. You are allowed to redefine what success means. You're allowed to rest without guilt. You're allowed to choose peace over perfection. Calm doesn't come from reaching every expectation. It comes from releasing the ones that never belonged to you. Every time you silence that inner critic, every time you forgive yourself for not being perfect, Your nervous system relaxes, the body loosens, the breath deepens. This is the true nature of calm, not the absence of effort, but the presence of acceptance. You stop fighting who you are and start resting in who you've become. It's okay to have goals, to want progress, to strive. But when striving becomes self-punishment, peace disappears. Real growth doesn't happen through force, it happens through patience. You move forward more gently, more consistently, when you stop judging every step. Remember, calmness and ambition can exist together. You can chase your dreams and still move with grace. You can want more without feeling like less. When you align your effort with your peace, everything flows more easily. You begin to act from inspiration, not from fear. And that's how you lighten the weight of expectations, not by running away from them, but by holding them differently. You breathe through them, question them, and keep only what serves your soul. The rest you let go of, quietly, kindly, without guilt. There's a quiet exhaustion that builds over time, not from doing too much, but from trying too hard to be everything for everyone. You wake up already feeling behind. You move through the day measuring your worth by what you accomplish, and when night comes, peace still feels out of reach. That's the hidden cost of expectations. They drain your calm long before they break your strength. You may have learned to hold yourself to impossible standards, to give endlessly, to perform without pause, to never show fatigue. But calmness isn't born from constant effort. It's born from grace, the willingness to let yourself be human again. You don't need to meet every demand to deserve rest. You don't need to be perfect to be at peace. When you slow down, guilt often follows. A whisper that says, "You should be doing more." But peace begins when you start questioning that voice. Who taught you that your worth depends on your productivity? Who told you that rest must be earned? These beliefs are learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. The calmest people are not the ones doing the least. They're the ones doing what aligns with their heart. They've stopped chasing validation and started seeking connection, not with others, but with themselves. They move with purpose, not pressure. They create quietly, live intentionally, and allow life to unfold without constant resistance. When you release the weight of others' expectations, something beautiful happens. Space appears, space to breathe, space to think, space to simply exist without needing to prove your worth. In that space, peace begins to grow, slowly, quietly, like sunlight returning after a long night. You start to realize that you were never supposed to meet every expectation. You were supposed to learn from them, to discover which ones lead to peace and which ones lead to exhaustion. The moment you stop trying to please everyone, you begin to hear your own voice again. And that voice, calm, gentle, steady, becomes your new guide. Don't rush your healing. Calmness isn't a destination, it's a rhythm you return to. Some days you'll move gracefully through your challenges. Other days you'll stumble, and that's okay. Each moment of awareness brings you closer to balance. You don't lose peace because of one storm. You lose it when you forget it was always inside you. So the next time the pressure rises, pause. Remind yourself that you are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to learn what peace really feels like. Let your worth be defined not by what you achieve, but by how gently you treat yourself in the process. Because when you finally release the weight of expectations, you don't just find calm, you rediscover freedom. Chapter 4. When emotions take over. There are moments when calm slips through your fingers, not because you don't know what peace feels like, but because emotions rise faster than reason. It happens in arguments, disappointments, or when something touches an old wound you thought had healed. In those moments, logic fades, your heartbeat quickens, and even simple words can feel heavy. That's when emotions take over and calm seems far away. But emotions are not enemies. They are messengers, carrying truths from the parts of you that words can't reach. Anger, fear, sadness, even jealousy. Each emotion holds information about what matters to you. The mistake is not in feeling them, but in letting them lead without awareness. Calmness doesn't come from suppressing emotion. It comes from listening without losing yourself. When a strong emotion arises, don't rush to escape it. Don't label it as wrong. Instead, pause. Feel where it lives in your body. Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, a tremble in your voice, or warmth rising to your face. Just notice it. Breathe into it. The moment you observe your emotion instead of becoming it, you begin to regain control. Most people believe they must stop feeling to be calm, but real calm allows you to feel fully and still stay centered. You can cry without collapsing, be angry without attacking, and feel fear without running. Emotions are waves. Calmness is the ocean beneath. The waves may crash, but the ocean remains steady. That's the strength you're learning to build. You'll notice that your emotions always move faster than your thoughts. They want reaction, not reflection. But when you learn to delay your response, even for a few seconds, your emotional energy starts to cool. Those few seconds are sacred. They create space for wisdom to enter. And in that space, peace begins to return. Some people spend their whole lives trying to control emotions, only to realize control was never the goal. Connection was. The more you understand what your emotions are trying to tell you, the less they overwhelm you. Anger might be asking for respect. Sadness might be asking for rest. Fear might be asking for reassurance. When you listen to your emotions, they calm down because they've been heard. There's a beauty in learning to sit with your feelings. No resistance, no judgment, just presence. That quiet patience transforms emotion into awareness. You stop being carried by your reactions and begin to guide them gently. You become the calm witness of your own heart. Remember, calmness doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you feel deeply without drowning. It's the art of staying open yet unshaken, soft yet strong. And every time you choose awareness over reaction, you strengthen that art a little more. When emotions run high, the mind often forgets that peace is still available. You might feel trapped inside your own reactions, repeating words you didn't mean, replaying thoughts that only make the feeling stronger. But even in those moments, calm hasn't left you. It's simply waiting beneath the noise, like sunlight hidden behind passing clouds. The first step to returning to calm is remembering that emotions are energy, not identity. Feeling anger doesn't make you an angry person. Feeling fear doesn't make you weak. These emotions are visitors, not definitions. They come to show you where healing is needed, then they move on. But they can only move on if you stop holding them hostage with guilt or denial. Let yourself feel without fighting the feeling. Cry if you need to. Breathe deeply. Sit in silence. Emotions transform when you allow them to exist fully. What you resist stays longer. What you accept begins to fade. Acceptance doesn't mean surrendering to pain. It means opening the door so pain can leave peacefully. Sometimes your emotions rise because they've been ignored for too long. You've kept quiet when you wanted to speak. You've smiled when you wanted to rest. You've held everything together when you needed to let go. Eventually, those unspoken feelings start asking for attention in louder ways. Calm returns when you stop silencing what needs to be heard. The practice of emotional calm isn't about perfection. It's about awareness in motion. You'll still feel anger, sadness, frustration. But instead of being swept away by them, you'll start watching them with compassion. You'll say to yourself, I see you. I know why you're here, but I choose peace. That small inner conversation is enough to shift everything. With time, you begin to notice a pattern. Every emotion that once scared you now feels smaller. You no longer see feelings as threats, but as signals. You stop reacting automatically and start responding intentionally. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you choose to stay present instead of panicking. Peace grows quietly in those moments when you hold yourself with kindness instead of criticism. When you no longer rush to fix how you feel, but simply allow it to unfold. This gentle self-compassion is the root of emotional calm. Because when you stop treating your emotions as enemies, they stop fighting back. One day, you'll face the same situations that once overwhelmed you, but this time, you'll move differently. You'll breathe slower, speak softer, think clearer. That's when you'll realize you've changed, not because the world became easier, but because you've learned how to stay calm while it moves around you. Emotional mastery isn't silence, it's balance. You still feel everything, but nothing controls you anymore. Chapter 5. Fear and the Illusion of Control. Fear is one of the quietest thieves of peace. It enters without warning, a thought, a memory, a possibility, and suddenly the calm you built begins to tremble. Sometimes it's fear of losing something, sometimes it's fear of not becoming enough. Whatever form it takes, fear always has one thing in common. It makes you believe that safety comes from control. You try to manage every detail, predict every outcome, protect yourself from every disappointment. You plan, you overthink, you prepare. But beneath all that effort lies exhaustion. Because no matter how much you try to control life, uncertainty always finds a way in. And the more you fight it, the more restless you become. Control feels like safety, but it's an illusion. Life has never promised certainty. It has only promised movement. Seasons change, people grow, circumstances shift. Calmness isn't about making life predictable. It's about learning to stay centered while it unfolds unpredictably. The truth is, fear doesn't ask for control. It asks for trust. The moment you stop trying to force outcomes, you create space for peace to return. You stop clenching your mind around the future and begin to breathe again. Fear begins to lose power, not when everything feels certain, but when you learn to exist peacefully inside uncertainty. Close your eyes for a moment and picture your life as a river. Fear wants to dam the flow, to control every current. But peace comes when you let the water move, trusting that it knows where it's going, even when you don't. You don't have to fight the current to stay safe. You only have to stop resisting it. Sometimes fear hides behind responsibility. You tell yourself you're just being careful, but inside, you're terrified of making the wrong choice. Calm begins when you accept that mistakes are not failures. They're lessons that life uses to guide you toward wisdom. You are not here to live perfectly, you are here to live consciously. Every time you release the need to control, your body relaxes. The shoulders drop, the breath deepens, the heart steadies. You start to notice that peace isn't something to be achieved. It's something that reveals itself once you stop interfering. The less you grasp, the more life flows. The more you trust, the calmer you become. When fear visits again, and it will, don't fight it. Greet it gently. Say, I see you. You're trying to protect me, but I don't need protection right now. I need peace. Fear only grows in resistance. It fades in understanding. Calmness doesn't erase fear. It teaches you to walk beside it, slowly, quietly, without letting it decide the direction. And the moment you learn to live that way, fear transforms from an obstacle into a teacher, reminding you that you were never meant to control everything, only to trust the journey. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It hides in hesitation, in overthinking, in the constant search for certainty. You tell yourself you're just being careful, But beneath that caution lives the quiet belief that something might go wrong, that you might lose, fail, or fall. Fear doesn't control you by force. It controls you by convincing you that control itself is safety. But control is just another form of fear, wearing a calm mask. It gives the illusion that if you manage everything perfectly, you can avoid pain. Yet life was never meant to be pain-free. Every beautiful moment you've ever lived was born from risk, from stepping into something uncertain and choosing to trust anyway. That's where real calm begins, not in removing fear, but in no longer obeying it. The mind will always try to plan peace, but peace can't be planned. It can only be allowed. The moment you stop trying to predict the future, the weight begins to lift. You realize you were never anxious about what's coming. You were anxious about trying to control it. When you surrender that need, life becomes lighter, simpler, kinder. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting that you can't guide every wave, but you can learn how to surf them. You begin to trust your inner balance more than external outcomes. You stop asking, "What if it goes wrong?" and start asking, "What if I can handle it no matter what happens?" That single shift changes everything. You'll notice that the calmest people aren't the ones with perfect lives. They're the ones who've stopped arguing with uncertainty. They trust the timing of their lives, even when it doesn't make sense. They know that sometimes peace doesn't come from answers, but from patience. Fear often disguises itself as preparation, the endless need to be ready for everything. But true preparation isn't about predicting pain, it's about strengthening presence. You become calm not by knowing what's ahead, but by learning how to return to yourself no matter what arrives. So when fear shows up, and it will, don't try to silence it. Sit with it, breathe beside it. Remind yourself, I can be afraid and still be at peace. Fear will test your balance, but calm will always bring you back to center. When you let go of control, you begin to experience something fear can never offer: freedom. The freedom to live, to feel, to trust, to breathe without the constant need to manage everything. You realize that life isn't something to master, it's something to move with. And slowly, fear transforms from a shadow into a signal, a gentle reminder that you are stepping into growth. You start walking lighter, trusting deeper, and feeling calmer, not because everything is certain, but because you finally are. Chapter 6: The Art of Letting Go. There comes a moment when holding on begins to hurt more than letting go. You may not notice it right away. It starts quietly, in your thoughts, in your sleep, in the tension that never leaves your shoulders. You keep holding on to things that no longer fit your soul: memories, expectations, people, outcomes. You tell yourself that if you just hold a little tighter, you'll finally feel safe. But peace doesn't live in what you hold, it lives in what you release. Letting go isn't easy because it feels like loss. The mind clings to what's familiar, even when it hurts, because familiarity feels safer than emptiness. You think that if you release control, you'll lose yourself, but the truth is the opposite. It's through letting go that you finally return to yourself. We often mistake attachment for love, control for care, and resistance for strength. But calmness is born from the courage to loosen your grip. The more you hold, the heavier life becomes. The more you release, the lighter you feel. You cannot carry peace if your hands are full of what was never meant to stay. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or erasing. It means softening your hold on the story. It means understanding that not everything broken needs to be fixed, not every ending is a failure, and not every silence is a loss. Sometimes peace asks you to stop rewriting the past and start living the present. Take a moment to breathe. Think of something you've been holding on to, a regret, a disappointment, a version of yourself that no longer exists. Now imagine slowly opening your hand and letting it drift away. Feel the space it leaves behind. That space isn't emptiness. It's room for peace to grow. You can't find calm while replaying what could have been. The past has no power except the power you give it. Every time you revisit old pain, you reopen a wound that was ready to heal. Healing begins the moment you stop asking why it happened and start asking what it taught you. Life isn't about control, it's about connection. The more you trust the flow of your journey, the easier it becomes to let things move as they're meant to. Sometimes people drift away, not because they failed you, but because their chapter in your story is complete. Sometimes a door closes not as punishment, but as protection. Letting go doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It gives you back your energy, your presence, your ability to love again without fear. You stop fighting time, stop resisting change, and start embracing what is. And that's where calm truly lives, in acceptance. When you finally let go, you don't lose control, you lose chaos. You don't lose people, you lose pain. You don't lose the past, you lose the weight of carrying it. And what remains is something softer, truer, and infinitely lighter: peace. Letting go is not a single moment. It's a quiet practice, repeated over time. Some days you'll feel light and free, ready to move on. Other days you'll wake up and feel the weight again, as if peace slipped through your hands overnight. That's normal. Healing doesn't follow a straight line. It moves in waves. The key is to keep choosing release, even when your heart wants to hold on. The truth is, you never lose what's meant for you. What leaves was never yours to keep. What stays was always meant to grow with you. When you start seeing life through that lens, letting go becomes less painful and more peaceful. You stop forcing, stop chasing, and begin to trust the gentle timing of everything. Holding on comes from fear. Fear of emptiness, fear of change, fear of the unknown. But the unknown isn't your enemy. It's the space where peace begins. When you surrender the need to control outcomes, life starts surprising you in ways control never could. You begin to see that every ending was actually a quiet beginning, waiting for your acceptance to unfold. Peace enters when you no longer resist what is. You may not always understand why certain things had to end, but calmness grows when you stop demanding explanations and start creating space for grace. Life often removes what blocks your growth long before you're ready to release it. You'll call it loss, but one day you'll see it was protection. Take a slow breath. Feel the air move through you, in, then out. That's what letting go feels like. You don't force it, you allow it. Each breath teaches the body that release doesn't equal loss. It equals renewal. Sometimes letting go isn't about people or situations. It's about versions of yourself that no longer fit who you're becoming. The person who always needed approval, the one who always stayed quiet, the one who kept peace for everyone except themselves. You can love those old versions and still decide to grow beyond them. The moment you stop identifying with your past, you start freeing your future. Calmness doesn't arrive when life becomes perfect. It arrives when you stop arguing with reality. You begin to realize that peace isn't about fixing life. It's about allowing life to unfold exactly as it should. Letting go becomes easier when you remember this simple truth. Nothing real can ever be lost. Love doesn't disappear, it transforms. Joy doesn't fade, it changes shape. The peace you seek isn't waiting somewhere ahead. It's underneath the layers of what you've been holding on to. Each time you release something, a memory, a fear, a need, you come a little closer to yourself. And the more you return to yourself, the lighter the world feels. That's the quiet miracle of letting go. You don't lose control, you gain peace. Chapter 7. Finding strength in stillness. There's a quiet kind of power that lives in stillness, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, doesn't demand attention. It's the strength that grows when you stop reacting to every noise around you and start listening to the silence within. In a world that glorifies motion, stillness can feel unnatural, even uncomfortable. But stillness is not emptiness, it's presence. And in that presence lies unshakable strength. We often confuse strength with activity, with doing, fixing, moving. But there's another kind of strength that's softer and deeper, the strength to wait, to observe, to breathe instead of rush. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing everything with awareness. It's the pause between thoughts where clarity is born. It's the space between emotions where peace begins. When you sit in stillness, your mind will resist. It will tell you to move, to scroll, to speak, to distract. It fears silence because silence reveals what's really inside. But if you stay, if you just breathe through the discomfort, you'll start to notice something gentle unfolding. The noise fades, the racing thoughts slow down, and underneath it all, you find yourself again. Stillness is where you meet your truth. It's where you see what truly matters and what never did. In that quiet, you realize that most of the pressure you carry isn't coming from the world, it's coming from within you. The need to prove, to please, to perform. When you pause, those false weights begin to fall away, and what remains is simple: your presence, your breath, your being. There's immense power in doing nothing but being aware. It sounds small, yet it changes everything, because awareness transforms reaction into response and chaos into clarity. The calmest people aren't detached. They're deeply connected, but rooted in their stillness. They can face storms because they've built a quiet place inside that no storm can touch. Try to give yourself moments of stillness every day. Even 2 minutes of silence can shift your energy. Sit, breathe, and listen. You don't need to force peace. You only need to stop disturbing it. Peace is already there, waiting behind the constant noise. The world often tells you that strength means pushing harder, running faster, speaking louder. But real strength is the ability to be gentle in the middle of chaos, to stay centered when everything around you pulls for attention. Stillness gives you that power. The power to act without panic, to speak without anger, to move without losing yourself. In stillness, you realize that peace isn't fragile. It's the strongest thing you have. It doesn't need protection, it gives protection. Because when you're calm, you see clearly. And when you see clearly, you live wisely. True stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the presence of awareness. You can be walking, working, or speaking, and still be still inside. It's a way of living where your mind stops chasing everything it sees and starts resting within itself. This inner rest is where your real strength begins. When you start practicing stillness, you'll notice how loud the world truly is. The endless opinions, the constant comparisons, the pressure to respond to everything. It's easy to get lost in that noise, to mistake noise for importance. But strength doesn't come from reacting to every sound. It comes from knowing which sounds deserve your energy and which ones can pass by in silence. The more you embrace stillness, the more powerful your presence becomes. You stop trying to prove your worth through words or actions. People begin to feel your calm instead of just hearing your voice. That's the silent authority of peace. It speaks without noise. Stillness teaches patience. It shows you that rushing doesn't bring you closer to peace. It only moves you further from yourself. When you slow down, life starts revealing its natural rhythm. You begin to see that not everything needs an immediate answer. Some things simply need space, time to unfold, time to breathe. Strength built from stillness isn't hard or rigid. It's flexible, grounded, and deeply kind. It doesn't collapse under stress because it doesn't depend on control. It flows with life instead of resisting it. When challenges come, you don't fight the current. You find your balance within it. That's what makes calmness so powerful. It's unbreakable because it doesn't try to break anything else. You can start cultivating this kind of strength in small ways. When you feel triggered, take one deep breath before speaking. When your mind races, close your eyes and listen to the silence underneath. When you feel lost, remind yourself that stillness is your home. You can return to it anytime. Every pause you take, every quiet moment you create, is like watering the roots of your peace. The deeper those roots grow, the less life's storms can shake you. You stop reacting to pressure and start responding with wisdom. You begin to move through the world slower but stronger, like a river that carves mountains not through force, but through steady flow. And perhaps that's the most beautiful truth about stillness. It doesn't change what's outside you. It changes how you experience it. The world may stay loud, but your soul no longer shouts back. You find strength not in control, but in calm. And from that calm, you begin to live not as someone constantly surviving, but as someone quietly free. Chapter 8. The Calm Within Conflict. Conflict is one of the hardest places to stay calm. It tests every bit of patience, every layer of awareness, every lesson you've learned about peace. In the heat of disagreement, emotions rise faster than understanding. Words become weapons, silence becomes distance, and the desire to be right often outweighs the desire to be kind. But it's within conflict that true calm reveals its depth, not as avoidance, but as balance. Most people approach conflict like a battle. Someone must win, and someone must lose. But real peace doesn't grow from victory. It grows from clarity. The goal isn't to silence the other person, it's to hear without being shaken. You can stay calm in conflict not by controlling others, but by controlling the space between stimulus and response. That quiet moment where choice lives. When someone speaks with anger, don't mirror it. Let their words fall and pass. Responding with calm doesn't make you weak. It shows you're strong enough to remain steady in someone else's storm. People who shout are often carrying pain. Your calm doesn't dismiss that pain. It simply refuses to add to it. Before reacting, pause. Feel your body. Feel your breath. The conflict may be external, but the decision to remain peaceful is internal. You can't stop others from losing control, but you can choose not to join them there. Calmness in conflict is not indifference. It's emotional maturity. It's knowing that understanding takes more power than anger ever will. Listen, even when it's hard. Most conflict isn't about what's being said, it's about what's not being understood. Beneath every harsh word lies a need to be seen, heard, respected, or loved. When you listen with empathy instead of ego, you begin to dissolve the tension. Conflict transforms when one person decides to stay conscious. Be that person. You'll notice that when you hold calmness through conflict, the energy of the room starts to shift. Voices lower, pace slows, space opens for honesty. Calm has a way of softening defenses. It disarms without forcing. This is the quiet power of emotional awareness. It doesn't suppress the truth. It expresses it with grace. Not every disagreement can be resolved. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how softly you speak. But peace doesn't depend on their reaction. It depends on your decision. You can walk away without resentment. You can forgive without reopening wounds. Sometimes calmness means choosing silence, not as escape, but as preservation. When you stop seeing conflict as something to fear, you begin to see it as a teacher, a mirror showing you where your patience ends and where your growth begins. Every time you stay calm when anger tries to pull you in, you strengthen your inner peace. That's how calm evolves, not in comfort, but in challenge. Every conflict, no matter how painful, carries a hidden lesson about yourself. It reveals what triggers you, what matters to you, and where your peace still depends on others. When anger rises, it's not just a reaction to the other person. It's a reflection of something inside you that still wants control, approval, or understanding. Seeing that truth doesn't make you weak, it makes you aware. And awareness is where calm begins to grow again. When someone challenges you, the ego wants to defend. It wants to prove, argue, and protect its version of truth. But the heart doesn't need to prove anything. The heart seeks understanding, not dominance. When you speak from your heart, with calm tone, steady breath, and clear intention, your words carry a different energy. They stop being weapons and start becoming bridges. Calmness doesn't mean you avoid expressing yourself. It means you express yourself without losing yourself. You can speak your truth gently and still stand firm. You can say no without anger and yes without fear. That balance between softness and strength is what true emotional maturity looks like. When conflict ends, silence often lingers. You replay the words, the tone, the tension. The mind tries to rewrite the scene, to fix what's already past. But calmness reminds you, not every moment needs correction. Some simply need closure. Let the silence settle without judgment. Sometimes peace isn't about what's said, but about what's released. Forgiveness plays a quiet role here, not as an act of forgetting, but as a form of freedom. You forgive because you value your peace more than your pain. You release the story of right and wrong and choose to walk lighter. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It says, I will not carry this storm any longer. You'll find that the more you practice staying calm in conflict, the less personal things feel. You start realizing that people speak from their own fears, just as you sometimes do. The more compassion you have for that truth, the less anger finds space to grow. Calm becomes your default, not because life stops being challenging, but because you've stopped reacting to it from chaos. There will still be moments when your patience runs thin, when words sting, when peace feels distant. In those moments, don't judge yourself. Just breathe. Calmness isn't perfection, it's practice. Every time you return to your breath instead of your reaction, you're strengthening your peace. Every time you choose understanding over pride, you're healing something deeper within. The greatest victory in conflict isn't winning the argument, it's keeping your peace intact. Because when you remain calm, no matter what happens around you, you've already won the only battle that truly matters, the one within yourself. Chapter 9. The Power of Acceptance. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize that peace doesn't come from control, from perfection, or from winning. It comes from acceptance. Not the passive kind that gives up, but the powerful kind that understands. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop fighting what is. It's the quiet recognition that peace lives not in what you can change, but in how you meet what you cannot. Acceptance begins when you finally stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That single shift transforms suffering into understanding, because the truth is, most of our pain doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from our resistance to it. The more you fight reality, the louder it becomes. The moment you soften into it, calm begins to return. Acceptance doesn't erase discomfort. It simply removes the unnecessary struggle. You start to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And that clarity itself brings relief. You realize that life has always been moving exactly as it should, even when it didn't align with your plans? What if everything that felt delayed or difficult was actually protecting you, guiding you, shaping you into who you needed to become? The mind often resists acceptance because it fears surrender means weakness. But it's the opposite. It takes deep strength to face life without needing to control it. Acceptance isn't the end of effort. It's the beginning of peace within effort. You still take action, but your actions come from clarity, not chaos. You stop forcing outcomes and start flowing with what's unfolding. Think of a river, calm not because it controls its path, but because it trusts it. It bends, it curves, it flows, yet it never stops moving forward. That's what acceptance feels like. You stop fighting the current of life and start moving with it, trusting that every turn has its reason, even when you can't see it yet. Sometimes acceptance means forgiving yourself, for choices you made in confusion, for words you wish you could take back, for versions of you that didn't know better. Self-forgiveness is one of the highest forms of acceptance. It frees you from the illusion that you must be flawless to be at peace. You begin to love yourself not because you are perfect, but because you are real. And as you learn to accept yourself, you naturally begin to accept others. You stop demanding that people meet your expectations before you can be at ease. You see them as they are, imperfect, growing, human. Acceptance isn't a one-time decision, it's a way of being. Every moment offers a new chance to say, this is what it is, and I choose peace anyway. The more you practice that, the more life begins to feel lighter, even when it doesn't get easier. Because peace doesn't depend on circumstances anymore. It depends on you. Acceptance is not the end of growth. It's the beginning of peace within growth. It's not about giving up your dreams or abandoning your desires. It's about creating harmony between where you are and where you're headed. Because when you accept the present moment fully, you stop fighting time. You stop rushing toward peace and start realizing it's already here. Most of the suffering we feel comes from the distance between what is and what we think should be. That gap is where frustration lives. Acceptance closes that distance. It teaches you to meet life as it is instead of waiting for it to become something else. You begin to realize that peace isn't waiting on the other side of achievement. It's waiting on the other side of resistance. Acceptance doesn't ask you to like everything that happens. It simply asks you to stop arguing with reality. There will be pain, disappointment, loss. Those are parts of being human. But when you meet them with calm awareness instead of denial, they lose their power to destroy your peace. You stop saying, this shouldn't be happening, and start saying, it's happening, and I can handle it. That small shift turns chaos into clarity. It doesn't change the situation, it changes you. And when you change, your experience of the world changes too. Acceptance gives you emotional space to breathe again, to respond instead of react, to see possibility where before there was only pain. There's a quiet humility in acceptance, a gentle understanding that life doesn't always owe you explanations. You begin to trust that even what hurts has purpose, even what ends has meaning. This isn't blind optimism, it's spiritual wisdom. You start noticing that every challenge has shaped your strength, every loss has deepened your empathy, every delay has refined your patience. True calm grows from that understanding. You no longer fight every storm. You start listening to what it's trying to teach you. You learn that peace doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from embracing it fully, with all its beauty and imperfections. Acceptance also means allowing joy when it comes. Sometimes we're so used to surviving that we forget to soften into happiness. Calmness reminds you that it's safe to feel light again, safe to smile again, safe to live without expecting loss around every corner. You realize that peace isn't a fragile thing, it's a natural state, one that returns every time you stop resisting life. every breath becomes an act of acceptance, in for what is coming, out for what has gone. And in that rhythm, you begin to understand the essence of peace. Nothing is ever truly lost. It just changes form. The moment you trust that truth, you are free. Chapter 10. Living Peacefully in an Uncertain World. The truth is, the world has always been uncertain. It always has been and always will be. We try to plan, prepare, and predict, but life keeps reminding us that certainty is a comfort, not a promise. And yet, within this unpredictability lies a hidden gift, the chance to discover peace that no change can take away. To live peacefully in an uncertain world, you must first accept that uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the natural rhythm of existence. Every sunrise, every breath, every heartbeat is a reminder that nothing is fixed, and that's what makes life beautiful. When you let go of the need to know what comes next, you open yourself to the quiet wonder of the moment that's already here. Uncertainty becomes painful only when you resist it. The more you fight the unknown, the heavier it feels. But when you lean into it, when you breathe into it, it begins to soften. Calm grows when you stop asking for guarantees and start trusting your ability to meet whatever comes. You realize that peace doesn't depend on control. It depends on confidence, not in the future, but in yourself. There's a strength that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you will still return to peace. It doesn't mean you won't feel afraid or that you won't stumble. It means you trust yourself to find your way back. That's the foundation of calmness, self-trust. When you stop doubting your ability to handle change, change loses its power to frighten you. The world may never slow down, but you can. You can choose to live gently in a world that rushes. You can choose patience when everything demands urgency. You can choose compassion when others choose conflict. Each of these choices is an act of peace, a reminder that the calm you carry inside matters more than the chaos around you. Try to notice how often your mind runs toward what if. What if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose? But there's another what if worth exploring. What if it goes right? What if this challenge becomes your strength? What if peace is already waiting for you beyond fear? The mind will always imagine danger. Calmness learns to imagine trust. Living peacefully in an uncertain world doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means meeting them with balance, doing what you can, then releasing what you can't. You work, you hope, you act, but you don't cling. You understand that you can give your best effort without needing to control the result. That's freedom. That's peace. And with that freedom comes grace. The quiet knowing that every ending carries new beginnings. Every doubt hides a lesson. Every pause holds purpose. The world may change, but your ability to stay centered does not. When you live from that place, uncertainty no longer feels like chaos. It feels like movement, the natural flow of a life still unfolding beautifully. Peace doesn't mean that life becomes silent, predictable, or easy. It means that no matter what life brings, you have built a stillness inside that cannot be shaken. The world will continue to move in waves, some gentle, some wild. But you now understand that calm isn't found in stopping the waves. It's found in learning how to float. You've discovered through this journey that calmness isn't a skill to master, but a truth to remember. It was never lost, only covered by noise, fear, and expectations. Every moment of awareness, every breath of acceptance, every pause of stillness has been a gentle uncovering of something that was always there. Your peace. Life will test you again. There will be moments when the noise returns, when pressure builds, when fear whispers. But this time, you'll recognize it. You'll know what to do. You'll remember that peace isn't something to reach for. It's something you return to. You'll breathe, you'll pause, and the calm will rise again from within, just as naturally as the tide returns to the shore. To live peacefully in an uncertain world is not to avoid change, it's to dance with it. You'll keep learning, falling, rising, healing. You'll keep facing the unknown and meeting it with quiet strength. And every time you do, your trust in life grows deeper. You begin to understand that uncertainty isn't chaos, it's creation. It's how life expands, how you evolve, how peace deepens. There's something sacred about a person who stays calm in a storm. Not because they don't feel the wind, but because they've learned to stand rooted within it. You are becoming that person, slowly, gently, quietly, the one who carries peace wherever they go, not as armor, but as light. When you sit alone in silence, remember this. Calm is not an escape from life. It's your way of embracing it. Each breath is a new beginning. Each moment of stillness is an act of strength. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply returning, again and again, to the peace that was always waiting for you. Let that be your practice. Let that be your path. No matter how loud the world becomes, keep returning to that quiet space within you, the space that listens, forgives, and simply is. Because that space is who you truly are. So as this journey closes, take one more slow breath. Inhale peace, exhale control. Feel the weight lift. Feel the calm expand. You are safe. You are enough. You are home.